Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first ever Propulsion Swimming Show. I'm your host, Scott, and with me, as always, is my good friend, Dan. Dan, how are you doing on this wet and miserable Sunday?
It's very miserable, isn't it?
Saturday.
God,
This weekend's been long already.
It's horrible outside, so I'm quite happy to be inside right now. And as far as I know, there's a lot of meets going on today as well, or this weekend. So everyone's going to be inside. So yes, the swimming people aren't going to be outside much today. I don't think if anyone's going to be outside, to be honest with you. But yes, all good otherwise than that.
Yeah, so welcome to the first ever Propulsion Swimming Show. Our idea with this kind of live stream format is basically to create a home for conversation and debate around swimming that normally, a podcast by ourselves wouldn't quite cover it. We want people to ask questions. We want people to get involved, leave their comments. This week we are going to be covering the regular season of ISL 2021, our kind of takeaways from that. But in future, we're going to look at doing special guests coming on, having kind of like a nice loose conversation with them. We're going to do quizzes, topics of debate, anything that pops up in the news. We can simply jump on this live stream and we can all have a chat about it, which is kind of what the swimming community needs, a place where, well, their people's voices can be heard.
Yeah, you see it a lot in other sports, don't you? Especially in football. Obviously, football is the biggest sport in the world, and you see a lot of YouTube channels or community-based or like-minded football fans talking about a game, for example, and how rubbish Arsenal are, or how rubbish Tottenham are, and how amazing Chelsea is, etc. You know, and I think that's what's missing from swimming, and that's why. I mean, our ethos is to build the profile of the swimmers and the sport in general. And so this is what we're trying to do, make people talk about it more. And I think we've started quite well with the ISL regular season because it should be talks about this competition.
It should. There's a lot of takeaways. So what I'd say is if anyone has any questions, any comments, put them in the live chat. We will pull them up onto the live screen. And then even if me and Dan can't answer them, maybe there's someone in the chat who will notice that and give their thoughts as well. So like we said, today is going to be a review of the ISL 2021 regular season. We aren't going to be doing like a swim by swim analysis because we could be here for absolutely hours. What we're going to do is we're going to do some broad takeaways to start with. We're going to do a team by team kind of mini review, a few minutes long, 2, 3, maybe that. Take away the best swimmers, the best performances. And then we'll be basically giving our view on the coverage, and more specifically, a topic I want to cover is the paywall, because we put out a poll in the middle of ISL seeing how many people had actually paid to watch this swimming happening, and the UK audience wasn't very receptive to it. So we're kind of going to go through that and address why that is the case. And then we will finish with some Q&As if there are any, and our top 4 predictions and maybe our way to early winners. So Dan, start off with your first broad takeaways from this year's ISL competition. What have you got?
My first takeaway was that you can definitely tell who the short course swimmers are, because they are absolutely flying. And usually you don't really see them do well at the long course meets. So let's say Tokyo, for example, that's the most recent one. Coleman Stewart would be my first guess. Obviously, one of my favorite swimmers. Nowhere in Tokyo, obviously didn't qualify. And then suddenly throw him into ISL, short course pool, buff, world record.
I would say
incredible.
It has definitely highlighted the difference between short course and long course. There is definitely that difference, and the transition between the two can catch a lot of swimmers out. There can be people who purely focus on short course. I know for the first, till December this year, there's a lot of short course racing to be had around the world, not just ISL. You've got the FINA World Cup going on right now in Berlin. You've got, there's the World Short Course Championships as well later on in the year. There are swimmers who, for me, there's swimmers who performed really well at the Olympics who haven't quite shown up yet. And I think that is, again, long course is very different to short course.
That, and you would expect them to have a rest after Tokyo. I think we said in our preview that you're either going to have swimmers who are absolutely flying, Coleman Stewart being an example, Shimanovic being an example, and then others who are not so good. Let's go with Gastadello, who has, you've got high expectations of Gastadello, and she was a top 4, wasn't she? Top 4, definitely a top 5 MVP last year. And the fact that she is pretty much
third, I think.
Yeah, pretty much nowhere to be seen right now. So yeah, I mean, it's difficult. Some people are in good form, some people are coming into good form, which we'll get into, and then some are just on blistering form. So yeah, it's good to watch though. It's good to watch to see
funny.
the journey that they go through.
Yeah, we've already got one comment in the questions. Who had the craziest or toughest kind of event combinations? Now, for me, it's less about kind of the races, if that makes sense, and more about their squad depth. So the Tokyo Frog Kings, we just spoke to Kiana McInnes, and
That's right.
some swimmers there had eight swimmers.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it was off
Who
the
does
top
she
of my head.
she
Was it
say? Was it?
Ali Tetzloff?
Yeah, or Paige Madden? I can't remember,
Had
but
something like
yeah,
eight swims, including relays and individuals. I think
yeah.
that's the toughest one. Tokyo Frog Kings had the toughest for me.
Well,
And then
it's a
you look
talking
at
point, isn't it? With the draft, I don't know what they did in the draft, but I'm not even sure it was allowed, to be honest with you. And I'm quite sure I don't know. Surely, if you can miss your pick. Obviously, if with NFL, you're the draft person. I don't know. So if you're not in,
it's not
how long do they have?
encouraged.
Is it 10 minutes they have to pick or something like that?
I can't remember for
Can't
this.
remember. Oh, but if they miss out their time, then they miss out on a swimmer. But then that's their fault. But they actually chose not to pick like 5, 6, 7, however many swimmers. Very confusing. But yeah,
We'll get into Tokyo. So should we start with the unbeaten team through the regular season of ISL? Energy Standard for me, the Galactico squad of ISL for me. They remind me of Real Madrid. There's just names absolutely everywhere. For me, all of these names turned up. They all performed.
Yep.
Can they get much better? That's the question I'm throwing at you.
Yeah, that's the question I was going to throw at you as well. Is that they are pretty much, I don't want to say peak, but they're pretty much close to or near enough there, you know? I mean, they don't have any massive jackpot people as such. Siobhan Jorge probably should be talked about because she can pretty much do every freestyle event. She's extremely versatile in that sense. She was doing quite well on the jackpot. So was Sarah Strostrom, of course. But the biggest name was Shimanovic. Now, he was smashing it, absolutely smashing it. And I think we'll get on to London, but the fact that PT's not there, he is most definitely the number one breaststroker right now. Sure. And he's definitely a short course swimmer because the underwater pullouts that he has is by far the best in the world, I reckon. So yes, you're right. It's a Galactico team, isn't it? And the relays they have is just pretty good. It is pretty good.
We say their relays. James Gibson is the relay master. Their men's medley relay team went the whole regular season unbeaten, which obviously means they get to pick skins, massive advantage. And skins, I mean, I don't like it, but they have a massive overall bearing on the result. They're still heavily weighted in terms of points.
Yeah.
Another point to take away, for the 4 matches that they raced in, they had 4 different MVPs. So Sjostrom, Jorge, Shimanovic, and Rylov. That just shows how well that squad were performing. And correct me if I'm wrong, that's 4 different strokes. That's Sjostrom butterfly, Jorge freestyle, Shimanovic breaststroke, Rylov backstroke. Yep. It's going to take a lot to beat this team going forward.
I know, it's a pretty good mixed team, isn't it? That, you know, I mean, it's quite phenomenal, really. There's another name that we should mention, actually, whose name I need to try and pronounce here is Evgenia Chukhinova. She hit a world junior record in the 200 breaststroke. Yeah, that was a really good swim. That kind of goes under the radar that she's so young and hitting such a fast time. So we got to mention her as well. But yes, you're right. It's a Galactico team. I did predict that they would finish first in the regular season, but they didn't race Cali. And I think that will be a big defining factor when they eventually do in the playoffs. So, yeah.
Quick takeaway for the Brits. Ben Proud looks in very good form. Very good form. He's one of 3 to go sub 21 for a 50 freestyle, which is really, really impressive. Really and we say how much better can Energy get. They've still got Manadu really to add. I know he was there for the last few rounds, but he's really going to get back into it come the playoffs. And that is the one addition to make for me.
Yeah, I think Chad also he was good in the first couple of rounds, and then I kind of pieced off maybe because the training intensity has gone up, which is normal. We fully expect that. So I think he will be one to watch out for in the fly and maybe the freestyle events. I'm not quite sure yet, but he's very strong underwater, and he's got short course world records, hasn't he? If I got that right, or used to. He's second to Nicholas Santos anyway in the 50 fly, but yes. So yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the Cali Condors. They are so good that Dressel could go home after was it 2 matches, 3 matches? He went home, still second in MVP rankings overall. Now he's definitely, for me, going to win that.
Yeah.
He got his payday, went home, chilled out back at his farm in Florida, wherever he is.
Yeah.
Big takeaways: all of the medley relays unbeaten, men's and women's, which is huge. That is massive, which is the reason they won every match. Yes, in the overall rankings, they finished second, but they actually scored the most overall points. And that was largely helped from their match where they scored a ISL record 707 points.
Yeah. That's insane.
Are they favorite? Are Energy favorite? I'm not sure.
Are you coin flipping, are you? Because I actually do have a number one favorite going into the playoffs and the grand final, because let's face it.
Shall we wait till the end?
Let's get to the end, yeah. But I kind of wrote in my notes that it's just a Dressel show. When he swims, it's all Dressel, because he jackpots everyone. The 100 IM is a prime example. He jackpots pretty much everyone in the field, apart from Cieslak, who is his own swimmer. So Cali get all of the points on that particular race. He jackpots everyone in the 50 fly, the 100 free, the 50 free. It's just insane. And of course, when you get to skins, it's a stupid amount of points that he wins. And you think, well, even if you take Dressel out, you look at the women's side, and one of my big top names to watch out for was Kelsey Dahlia. Absolutely blew it away on the skins.
She did.
Absolutely awesome.
And Beta Nelson swimming incredibly well after a fairly quiet Olympics.
Yeah.
I mean, they're on top form. And like you said, as soon as Dressel's in the water, I think they're favourite for every match they're in.
Pretty much, yeah. And it helps when you've got Coleman Stewart doing backstroke world records. That definitely does help too.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Yeah, I think in general, everyone they've got the superstars in terms of they're able to jackpot is massive in ISL, and they've got the swimmers that can jackpot. Not all races, obviously, but a vast majority of races, and Dressel is a big factor in that. So yeah.
Okay, the home UK team, London Raw. For me, they've flown under the radar because of their tough matchups. So they didn't have a match where they weren't facing either Energy or Cali. And when they faced Cali, they beat Cali. So I actually think they might just be a slightly underrated.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, because, they've had hard matches. They haven't had PT. We said that in the intro. I
don't think they're getting him.
Huge miss, and the fact that he can dance quite well, based on the Strictly fans listening, he's going to be in there for the long run. So let's face it, he's not racing ISL. Well, we'll see him again in commies or whatever's first. Is it Europeans first? I can't remember what it is now.
Worlds.
But Worlds. So he's not coming back. And they're really struggling for breaststroke, actually, especially on the men's side. Luckily, Alia Atkinson. Yeah, Alia Atkinson is doing a good job on the women's side, and actually getting quite a lot of jackpot actually as well, which is really important. One of who's my biggest takeaway? Guido. Really, really quite impressed with Guido, because his 50 backstroke was staggering, and then he's able to hold it now for the 100 as well, which is massive for the medley relay and of course the individuals. So I think the fact that they beat Calais, even though Dressel was missing for the last day, which of course is important for the skins, that obviously helped. They've got to go in as well. We'll get to predictions later, but I think they get into a top 4. So we'll see. And like you said, I think the Australians help massively.
Yeah, the Aussies coming back was huge. Carl Chalmers looks really good. Duncan Scott, no matter what race he's in, he seems to race fast. No struggle whatsoever.
He's top 10, isn't he? Overall MPV.
Fatigue doesn't happen.
No.
Because he doesn't swim the skins, he's slightly handicapped in MVP rankings. But if you listen to Kyle Chalmers on the Pool Boy podcast, he actually disagrees with all of that. And because Duncan swims so many events at such a high standard, he thinks Duncan's actually the best guy in the pool. I'm not disagreeing.
No, I wouldn't disagree either.
Kira Toussaint is still an absolute animal at short course backstroke.
Yeah,
and her underwaters might actually be up there with Dressel as some of the best in the world.
Yeah. Well, she's definitely got the best start. She's quickest off the block. I think I hear Rowdy and Bernie say that she's always like 0.5 off the block, and you think, God, half a second to react and get off the block is quick, very quick. And then combine that with the underwater face that she has as well. She's like, incredible. The only thing that she not really suffers with, but when it gets to the skins, she does a really good first one, survives on the second one, and then there's literally nothing on the third one. So from that point of view, she could get jackpotted for the final 50, the third 50, but for the first two, she's quite solid. And the backup, if you want to call it a backup, women's backstroker Amina Atherton missed out on Tokyo, but she's looking pretty solid as well. So
she is. I'm trying to think. I think she came 9th at the World Cup yesterday in the 50 backstroke. If I remember,
I haven't
looked
at the results, which is
there's a few fast swims. A few fast swims.
Yeah.
Right, moving on. 4th place team. Well, actually, before we move on, London Raw definitely going to be up there in the playoffs. Definitely going to be up there. So number 4 team, Toronto Titans. For me, this might just be the team of the regular season. You called it going in that they were potentially a top 4 team. They definitely look like it.
Oh, they look good. They look good. Well, we spoke to Laura Stevens, didn't we, the other week, and the team togetherness is probably the best, if you like. I mean, we talked to Abby, and the Breakers are much the same, but this Toronto Titans team is, I don't know, they're very good. They're very good. They obviously got Max in the draft, and they knew that they needed a male IMer in that team. He's done really well.
They've got Rossetti as well.
They have Rossetti, yeah. So, well, they've got 2 decent ones now, haven't they? Which helps, especially when there's new splits after every 100, so you can get points from that as well. And the big swimmers of Kylie Mass, Shane Ryan, they've all turned up.
Kylie Mass is on fire.
Yeah, Louise Hansen.
For me, that women's medley relay team is dangerous.
Yeah.
Very dangerous going forward, because you've got Kylie Mass, you've got Louise Hansen. Those two, I mean, Louise Hansen is unbeaten in 100 fly.
Yeah. It's very impressive, isn't it?
You've got Lisa Bratton, who's unbeaten in 200 back. You've got Shane Ryan, who's flying in the 50s. That's what you need. They've got Cassia Wasek in the 50s. One thing that might hurt them going forwards, and this sounds bonkers to say, Summer McIntosh has left for school.
Yeah, that's mental. When you told me that at the start, I was like, well, that sounds so... They shouldn't be at school. What's going on? But you got to remember that she's, 14, 15? Yeah, 15, should be at school. Get to school now. But I mean, she'll only race I suspect she'll do the distance freestyle more so the sprint, so I don't know how much they miss of her exactly.
She was good. No, she was really good in the 200 and below.
Oh, she was really good, but she wasn't getting the mega points in like your Kylie Masses, Louise Hansons, and people like that. So I don't know how much they'll miss her exactly, but it's a big miss either way, because you don't want to really lose a swimmer, because then another swimmer's got to take her place, and then fatigue will set in, etc., etc. But Toronto look good, really, really good. And What were you going to say? I just think their relays are so strong that I'm not so sure on their skins ability, which might be their biggest kryptonite. But in terms of relays, they might be able to pick the relays, but then when they get to but they might win the relays and pick skins, but then winning the skins is a different ball game altogether. That's the only thing that could stop them from going up into the Energy Calais sort of standard. But
for me, they lack breaststrokers, I think.
Yeah, they do.
They just can't quite compete at that top level. If I look through the results, did they win any breaststroke matchups?
I don't think so.
They won 100 breaststroke.
Well, the problem is you've got Kelsey Wog, who's just not on form like at all. Anton McKee is not on form at all, and they're your 2 best breaststrokers, give or take. So it's not quite happening. Maybe give it a little bit of time, and Eindhoven comes around, it might change, and form will change. Has to. So yes, I think they're doing really well.
LA Current, then for me, this was the quietest team out of the whole of the ISL regular season. There were no headlines, no nothing. They had no Ryan Murphy, like we said at the start. Gastadello was getting up to speed. She's slowly getting quicker through the rounds. Very professional job done through the regular season. Come playoffs, we might see a few more headlines if Ryan Murphy shows up.
Quite potentially, Ryan Murphy and Gastadello. Yeah, my notes literally say the big guns are just not firing yet. And
one of them wasn't there.
Yeah, well, that and that as well. Yeah, I mean, if you're missing your top 2 based on last year's MVP, and they were top 5, both of them were in the top 5. Yeah, I mean, that's a huge miss. So it doesn't really surprise me that well, it doesn't surprise me that they're in the playoffs. Of course, that was always going to happen. But the fact that they're not in the top 4 doesn't really surprise me either. I remember you saying that you really liked this LA team, that you really thought they could push Energy in Cali.
Well, that's the thing. I think maybe a very quiet regular season might do them favors coming forward.
Possibly.
They might go slightly under the radar, slightly like London, but London are going to be a marked team. LA now, if Ryan Murphy comes back and he's on fire, who knows? Who knows?
So even though Castello and Murphy haven't performed, or one of them's not even been there, Abby Weitzel has done very well. She actually hit an American record in a race, which I need to remember now. I believe it was the 50 freestyle American record, short course, obviously. So that is extremely needed. That would have been jackpot, of course. So hopefully she can maintain form, because she actually swam really well at Tokyo as well. So I don't know if she's now going to have her break. She must have had a break. I don't know. But yeah, again, form changes. Give it 2 months or so, and then it will all change. And then Castello hopefully will be firing, and then you'll see LA Currents go up through the rankings. So yes, team to watch, of course.
Because that was my prediction that they might even win. Doesn't look so good right now.
I don't think so. No.
Right, Aqua Centurions. I was a bit surprised that they finished this high.
Were you? Yeah, so Toronto were your team of the regular season. I actually think Aqua were my team of the regular season. They were absolutely incredible. Now, I don't know how much of a factor being in Naples was with the home crowd. That might have helped, especially when you got Pellegrini swimming there, who I think, who was it? Someone was saying that, was it Laura, that Pellegrini is the David Beckham of Italy? Yeah, so she's very, very popular. And of course, then she attracts crowds, and that obviously helps with atmosphere. But the female breaststrokers were incredible.
That's the thing. They really had some... Moving forward, I think they match up really well against LA and Toronto Titans, because they have very, very strong breaststroke. So they could potentially be quite dangerous going forward, which I never thought I'd say. I honestly never thought I said that, but they went all out for breaststroke in the draft and retaining swimmers. And yeah, it does look like it works. They don't have the depth to compete with the Energies, the Calis, but they could upset a few teams.
I think they're definitely going to cause everyone problems on the men's side in the relays, when you've got Merezi and Sekon and swimmers like that. And Martinenghi, thank you. I knew there's another one. Kaminga hasn't quite fired up yet, but of course he had an incredible Tokyo, so I'm sure he's on a bit of a he's on a rest. I would have thought he would have done nothing. I would have thought, but leading into ISL, so we can give him a little bit of a reason for not doing well. But the fact that you've got other swimmers doing really well, they've done fantastic. To finish, where have they finished? They finished last year by a distance, and they finished a solid 6th. I think they've done fantastic, and I think they're just gonna. I think they might get better. Honestly, I think they do. Okay. They will push the relays at the top end of the table. So, looking forward to it.
Right, DC Trident then. Again, mildly surprised with how they performed in the swim in. That took everyone by surprise, a bit like Aqua. The biggest point from that is they had no swimmers in the top 10 of that swim in, and they won.
Crazy. Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's just squad depth and cohesion.
Pretty much, pretty much. They just haven't. You don't remember them being jackpotted much at all.
I don't think there were any jackpots.
Not really. Yeah, and you don't really remember them winning many races, to be honest with you. No. I think they're gradually getting better. One of the swimmers I was watching out for was Ryan Hoffer. I think he's got a big, big future, and I think a lot of Americans do as well.
He started off slow.
He started off very slow. I was like, oh no, what a terrible pick. See, they were the first picks as well, or one of the first picks after Kaminga, and you think, oh no, what terrible. But now he is absolutely flying, and he's winning these 50 freestyles, and I think it was the 100 freestyle as well. And he can do a pretty decent fly as well. So he's just going to get him. He's going to keep improving. Anna Hopkin, who is much the same as Ryan Hoffer, does a 1500. She is looking good as well. Putting Kwamo Yo-Yo under a bit of pressure as well. Not
Mm.
quite there, missing by, I don't know, 0.4, 0.5 on the total time. But yeah, those two names, especially because they're useful for skins as well, will
Yes.
play a big role, I feel, in the playoffs.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm jumping to conclusions, or it's coincidental, but there seemed to be a turning point in their third match where things started to click and you started to notice a little bit of momentum. And I think this was when Cody Miller arrived at ISL.
Yeah.
Now, we know Cody's no longer one of the fastest breaststrokers around, but he is an incredible leader. You see it from his YouTube channel. He knows how to talk to people. He knows how to present. And I do not know if it's his connection with is it coach or GM, Cullen Jones? I don't know if that connection has moved the team forward, but they certainly look better for him arriving.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, he's definitely not one of the top guns anymore. But in terms of motivating the team and keeping morale high, is there anyone better? I'm not sure there is.
He's been around the American system and knows Jordan the Pools for a very long time. He knows how to race this sort of meet.
He knows everything, and seeing as though most of this team is American as well, they probably all look up to him, of course, as you probably would, being Olympic gold medalist, swimming next to Michael Phelps, swimming with Dressel, etc., swimming next to Lily King every day. Yeah, I think you're going to be looking up to him and following his instructions and feeling a little bit inspired. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think there was a bit of a turning point when he arrived. And I think that's probably the way I would be as well. If you have Cody suddenly come onto your team, we're like, oh, we're suddenly a bit more stronger. We feel a bit more belief, So, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
Okay, Team Iron. I haven't really got too many takeaways here, other than Nicolas Santos is going to be the highest paid 50 fly swimmer of all time. He has whacked up a massive bill for his swims. I think it's approaching 250K, which is crazy money.
Just insane. Just for one race. You don't really see it.
Just for a 50 fly.
Actually, does he do 53? I don't even think he does, because you get someone like Orsi into the water for that. Just incredible. 50 fly, and it's the consistency is crazy. I mean, he's going to get that world record. He is so close to that world record again. He jackpots everyone pretty much every single time as well. The points come flooding in for Iron. It's amazing that he only does the one race, and yet he is so vital to the team. And with his experience as well, he's 41. I'm sure he's much the same as Cody. He would build everyone up and motivate them as well. Just insane, just incredible.
I don't know. I don't know what it is. Just he keeps getting faster through the rounds. He did this last year, got so close, and it was just like he needed some more swims just to get there. Now he's got Eindhoven. There's more swims on the horizon.
Yep.
Another thing with Iron, there seems to be a lot of swimmers still kind of missing. Like Milak wasn't there. I can't remember seeing Hosu really.
I don't think so.
So they can improve going forwards. And again, these teams down the bottom going into the playoffs, they might not necessarily compete at the top of the leaderboard, but they've got swimmers who can take points off the big teams and really disrupt where they would usually score.
Yeah. Well, the thing I like about Iron is that they are very strong when it gets to skins. And of course, you know what skins is like. Massive points available. Tom DeVore, Orsi, Cromwell Yo-Yo needs to be spoken about, because she was just...
she's such a good short course swimmer.
Yeah, you just expect it from her. So it's not really surprising, or she hasn't done anything, out of this world. She just does what she does and jackpots and wins skins all the time. I don't know where she is in the MVP race, but she's going to be somewhere near the top. The only issue for Iron is that outside of those sprints, take the 50s and 100s away, you're a little bit worried on those longer distance races. But I don't know what.
And you do score points on those, obviously.
Obviously, yeah. So if you just get 1 or 2 points for those races, but then you do well on skins, it's doesn't quite balance up and doesn't bring you to the top of the table. But I think the addition of Milak will help. Obviously,
if he comes,
if he decides to come. I think Hosu again. I can't remember Hosu racing. I really can't. Did she race? I can't even remember.
Well, if someone did spot her, put a comment in the chat.
Leave a comment in. But she might have the same influence as Cody Miller. When she comes in, everyone's going to be like elated. Obviously, one swimmer that I was watching out for was Ida Holko, who is doing well when she's not racing Lily King or Ali Atkinson, the best.
Yeah.
She's just on the fringe of those guys, those girls. But hopefully she'll come through. She is getting better through the rounds. Robert Glinter, the backstroker,
Looking good.
looking good. I didn't realize that he was more of a short course swimmer because I tipped him for finishing top 3 at Tokyo
Olympics,
potentially
yeah.
as a dark horse, but now I know that he's a short course swimmer. It now makes perfect sense. So yes, he's looking pretty good as well. And bring those names in, and iron will be a threat, definitely.
Okay, those are the 8 teams who've made it through to the playoffs. Thank you for everyone for sticking with us as we go through those. We will touch upon the 2 teams who have gone home. And for me, they actually have 2 of the most impressive swimmers between them.
Yeah.
We start with New York Breakers. Abby Wood had the meet of her life. I would love to have a look at how much she's earned, but she was by miles their best swimmer, scoring points absolutely everywhere. If she was on another team, she'd be a superstar.
Yep.
The Breakers are a young team lacking that star power, especially at the 50s and skins, which you get punished at ISL for not having that. Cassia Wasik leaving was a big loss.
Yes, terribly. They do well on the it's almost like the opposite of iron. They do well on the longer distance races, and then when it gets to the important ones, if you like, the 50s and the 100s, they don't really have anyone. I'm trying to desperately say they just don't really have
just Joe Litchfield.
Joe's not a 50-meter swimmer. He's a 200 IMer. And yet
Matt Richards leaving as well was painful for them.
That was painful. Popovici not swimming for them. That's
didn't turn up.
Pretty key. You got Molly Renshaw doing 50 breaststroke. She's not a 50-meter breaststroker. And so the depth isn't quite there. They're just missing the sprinters basically. Abby Wood did her part. It's a shame. Well, not a shame, but it's great actually from a spectating point of view that Ohashi turned up for Tokyo, so she actually had a bit of a run for her money, and actually Ohashi got the better of her most of the time actually. Another name outside of Abby Wood, even though Abby Wood was definitely their top swimmer, Matt Temple.
He had a very good play-in.
Yeah.
He was actually, for me, his butterfly was mildly disappointing, but his freestyle blew me away.
Yeah, very strange.
It was weird. I was expecting the other way around.
Yeah. So again, he was one that slowly got better through the rounds, and that skins is the one that stuck in my head. Like, oh wow, he's actually done really well there. Was it Orsi? I think it was Orsi a run for his money. You think, blimey, pretty good. Oh, was it Tondebor? That's right, Tondebor. Yeah.
And then Tokyo Frog Kings, in our preview podcast, we said this might just be the worst team because they lacked a lot of depth on paper. Now, I know the official team wasn't overly released to the public, but that's a whole nother issue.
Yeah.
They did lack a lot of depth when it came to relays. We said in the build-up there were swimmers who were swimming 8 races per day or per meet, which is a lot. But then they had Sato, who has definitely put behind him the struggles of the Olympics, and for me was the swimmer of the regular season. He was mighty impressive, and I had no idea he could do a 200 breaststroke as good as he's been doing.
Yeah, nor did I. Nor did I. I mean, you
simple as that.
You expect him to do well on the IM, you expect him to do well on the 200 fly, but then he's thrown in a 200 breaststroke, and you think, what? I didn't know you could do this. Like, obviously, you could do it for the IMs. But to the point where he's actually challenging the top breaststrokers, what? Insane. So yes, definitely the number one swimmer, and he's the number one in MVP rankings. But of course, the point total he has now is it. So he's obviously going to start going down. But yes, he has definitely put the disappointment of Tokyo behind him, which that would not have been easy to do. Having a psychologist there must have been in play for him, because especially when it's a home games as well, you want to perform at your best. So, and it's quite a quick turnaround, 3 weeks to then put that behind you and then perform for the team, for the Frog Kings. Yeah, hands up, got to praise him, give him credit for that.
Okay, so that is kind of our as quick as we can possibly do run through of each team in this ISL, how they performed in the regular season. What we're going to do now is we'll take a quick ad break. If anyone's got any questions that they want answering, they've got any comments, now is a really good time to throw them in the chat. Like we said, the whole idea of the Propulsion Swimming Show is interaction, a place for your voice to be heard. What we will also do after the ad break, as well as answering questions, is we will do kind of our overall review of the coverage, the paywall, and a big question I've got for Dan, which is, what is ISL now? because I feel like the ethos and movement behind ISL has changed slightly this year. I'd like to address it. So we'll have a quick break and we'll be back in about 60 seconds time.
Here at Propulsion Swimming, our vision is to give the sports we love the coverage and publicity it deserves. Swimming is an amazing sport, and we believe that it should be given more exposure than it currently gets from traditional media outlets. With the superstars we currently have at the elite level, we want to provide a platform where everyone can watch, listen and be inspired to become the best swimmers they can be. We have a wide variety of videos across our channel, including swimming drills to help improve your technique, podcast episodes where we talk to amazing special guests, and live streams where we talk about popular topics in the swimming world, as well as so much more swimming related content. Come and check out Propulsion Swimming on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and get involved in our community of like-minded swimming fans.
Okay, Dan, there is one question to address first. What was our favourite match? For me, it was match 10.
Yeah, I agree.
I said going in, this was the one I was most excited for. Match 10, the fact that it was level. This has been the biggest problem with ISL this year. The draft was meant to get rid of it, but it's not been a level playing field. Match 10 was definitely a level playing field.
I agree with you. Yeah, you love a bit of drama. I always love a bit of drama. And the fact that you just don't know who's going to win or who's going to come last or anything like that, that is what ISL should be all about. You shouldn't be going into skins thinking, oh, well, we already know who's going to win or we already know who's going to be bottom. It's boring from that point of view. So you want the teams to be level. And so that's the reason why I agree with you that match was definitely the most entertaining, definitely. Yeah.
Will James Guy be swimming this year? I can't speak for Jimmy, but I know the reason London didn't pick him is because they knew he definitely wasn't doing the regular season, might not be doing the playoffs, may just do the final, a bit like Adam. Yeah. And they wanted to have a squad of, swimmers who would do every round. That's why they didn't actually pick Adam either. They got the public vote for Adam. So will he be swimming this year? I think so at some point because Energy are going to make the final. When he shows up is another thing. I'm not too sure. But there is talk that final is going to be in the UK. Exciting talk. So I would definitely expect him to turn up for that if it is in the UK.
Yeah, he might turn up towards the end of the playoffs, maybe. I'm not quite sure what he's doing exactly. I know he's doing a couple of clinics, like we went to the AP clinic. Oh, yeah. I know Jimmy's doing his own clinic, so maybe he's concentrating on that more so than doing ISL.
Just taking a break.
or that, yeah, because it's a 5-year cycle. But do I expect it? I don't know. Whether he turns up or not, I've got no idea. But if there is a UK final, I would half expect him to be there representing Energy. Yeah.
Thoughts on the jackpots? I hate them. I fully hate them. I know there's talk going on that the money isn't getting stolen as well, but I've seen SwimSwam reporting that money is getting stolen. So
yeah, can't get behind that at all.
I don't like stealing points. I think they've overcomplicated swimming. I love the novelty of it all, but the jackpots are just... There's only been one match where they have actually influenced the result, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Literally, that's the first time in 2 years that it's influenced the result. Yeah. All the other times, all it's doing is making the rich richer, and the guys who need the help, that need the funding, they're losing money.
Yeah. In terms of stealing money, that shouldn't happen. So let's say you come 7th in the race and you get 2 points. You should get your 2 points worth of money, even if you get jackpotted. So I don't actually mind the jackpots in let's say the regular part of racing. When it's included in the skins, then I've got a bit of an issue.
Skin, yeah, no.
I don't like that at all. The skins should almost be a separate thing.
So I think the motivation behind jackpots is to stop teams putting in a bum for a race, or for basically for throwing a race because they don't have a swimmer who can do it. So essentially, for like a 200 fly, if they put in a 50 breaststroker, just to do, poor person, whoever's doing that, it stops them from doing that. It makes each and every race competitive, supposedly, but it's not quite worked for me. I'm not a fan.
As long as it's taken out of skins, I don't have too much of an issue. And as long as it's the points, let's say Dressel, for example, as long as Dressel's not getting all of the money from the 100 IM.
The 50 ones are too short and the 100 ones are too short.
Yeah.
Miles, if your motivation is to stop people from swimming slow, it's not worked, because your 50s and your 100s, the times are way too short, and Dressel just jackpots everyone.
Yeah,
I get it for the 200s and the 400s. It stops you putting in someone who is
just
lot
doing a swim
slower
down or whatever. Yeah,
exactly. It stops you from doing that. But for the 50 ones we said last year, I definitely need to change, and they haven't.
Some of them are like 0.8 between 8 swimmers, and you think, well, hang on, Dressel's got the world record by how much? 0.5, let's say. You think, what? So of course he's going to jackpot most, if not all. So yes, it's a definite talking point, and nothing we can do. We can just voice our opinion. But
exactly.
Yeah, but as long as it's out of skins for me, that's what I want to see.
That's the first set of questions answered. If anyone's got any more, throw them in the chat. We will definitely answer them all. We'll bring them up onto the screen. Let's touch upon our kind of overall review of the coverage. Now, for me, this is the biggest bugbear I have with ISL. The coverage is absolutely amateur. And I'm not on about videoing the meet, how the meet looks. That actually looks pretty good. They've got the best photographers in the world there. My issue is it's left to people like SwimSwam, to Pool Boy, to take up the reins to promote this. ISL is not doing a good enough job of pushing it out to trusted platforms. For example, the BBC in the UK have completely checked out of ISL. You can search on it now. You will not see a single mention about it. I bet you if Duncan Scott broke, I don't know, the 200 free short course world record, for example, it may not even get a write-up. I think that is slightly the Nick Hope leaving BBC effect, but for me, it's not doing a good enough job of pushing itself out there.
Yeah, well, I'm going to I can't believe that the social media accounts basically
went down,
disappeared. And you think, what? That your social media is the main part of marketing, and the fact that's gone,
that is their only marketing.
Yeah, well, that's the issue, isn't it? That's part of the issue. It is amateurish, like you say. Once the actual swimming is happening, the spectacle of it, the lights,
cracking.
Great. I like the idea that they've added the flashing red for jackpots, even though we've just talked about that we don't really like them. But another thing to add in there, which makes it look good. That's great. But in terms of showing people that it's actually happening, no one knows about it. No one knows.
Not in the UK. Not in the UK. So this is my next point. We'll get to the paywall. We put a poll up on Twitter. We said we'd address it. In the UK, the paywall has not been received well to watch this. People don't overly want to pay for something they don't really know what's going on, because, like we said, BBC aren't putting out clips about it. If, for example, you saw Adam Peaty racing like you did last year, breaking world records, suddenly you're going to turn it on the next weekend, or you might think about paying for it. It's just not worked. You can't put something that's growing behind a paywall. It simply doesn't work.
No, I think a lot of people, especially on Twitter, said, well, it's only such and such amount. It's nothing. It's like, let's just say 20
I appreciate that.
That's great. That's all very well and good. But the whole idea is to sell it first for free so that everyone knows it's happening every year and you know what to expect. These are the swimmers. You should be promoting the swimmers, giving them a higher profile. And then once you've got the audience of, let's just call it 1 million, why not? Then you can add a paywall in.
If you want to.
Yeah, if you wanted to. You've got to build it first.
The cost of the paywall is not the issue. It is the paywall and the fact that everything is behind it. Do you know what I mean? It's not quite there. And this is my biggest takeaway that I want to put to you. What is ISL now? Because we went into the ISL experience expecting this to grow the sport of swimming, to increase its coverage and everything like this. We're 3 years in now. My takeaway is it's just about getting swimmers paid.
It's only for the elite guys, of course, but if you want to get these guys paid, you've got to have an audience to
Well, it's
watch
how
to help them.
sustainable that is.
Well, that's just it. It's not a long-term thing. Their business plan, or whatever you want to call it, is it's only going to last 2 years in my head. I think it does.
It
I think
needs
it
to.
crumbles
If
soon.
if the multi-billionaire backer goes, is this sustainable? No.
No.
Swimmers, we've off the record, we've spoken to a few swimmers, and some of them they actually think they're getting paid too much.
Yeah.
I think you compared the winnings of Diamond League for athletics, and if you win an event in Diamond League over the whole year, I think you get something like 10 grand.
Yeah.
Now here you can get 10 grand from winning like one race.
Yeah.
It's nuts. I think the prize money's too steep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we spoke to a lot of the people who are rookies, and they fully appreciate that this funding is extending their careers.
Yeah.
And that's the brilliant thing about ISL, the fact that it is funding young people's careers and keeping swimmers in the sport. But sustainability-wise, because it is not growing the coverage and not moving the sport forward in terms of exposure anymore, it just isn't. It hasn't this year in the slightest.
Yeah.
It means kind of the whole premise of swimmers getting paid is going to run out. And
well, I thought the whole point of ISL
simple as
was
that.
to get more eyes on the sport. And at the very beginning, you thought, yes, this is great. This is a brilliant idea because it's all quick fire. It's all done in an hour or two. And, it's all short course. The races can be done quickly. And it's just not really happened. No one's aware that it's going on unless you are in swimming. Whereas,
and you have to be deeply involved in swimming as well.
Yeah.
Like full on involved.
Prime example, right, is the 100 in cricket. The publicity that got was all over the place, and so everyone was talking about it. This is exactly what ISL should have been doing and should still be doing. And it's a massive shame. Hopefully that will change next year, or even change for the playoffs. They could still fix it, but I don't know why they've put a paywall. It's a shame.
Well, they need to make money because it's not sustainable right now. But the paywalls come too soon in terms of exposure, and the paywall isn't. Well, I'd love to know how much they've earned from it. I'm sure it's actually not that much.
Not that much. They should have brought in, I know DAZN is a big thing right now in the TV coverage. They should have given ISL to DAZN so that DAZN then pay ISL or something like that. They're doing it all themselves.
With Eurosport.
Yeah,
they were on Eurosport last year, and suddenly it's like a trusted source. Yeah. I'd much rather give my credit card details to Eurosport than I would some hand-built ISL website. That's the simple thing behind my thinking.
There's no trust, is it, right now? So yeah, it's a shame.
The other issue is it's come so close to the Olympics, and the Olympics is the absolute pinnacle of swimming. We've been saturated with swimming for the whole summer. It's a little tiresome for those casual viewers now to carry on watching after the Olympics. It sounds bad because we love swimming, but it is. It's dragged slightly.
Yeah, I don't know if that's ISL's fault because they've done the same dates, haven't they, throughout the 3 years, give or take.
They're earlier this year.
Were they slightly earlier? Yeah, well, I don't know, because they want to lengthen it out, obviously. With Budapest, for example, last year, it was just 6 weeks bosh, wasn't it? Whereas now with COVID half gone, they can now extend it a little bit further, which is all well and good. But you're right, I think people, it's hard to say, but people are tired of the swimming after Tokyo. There needs to be a little bit of a respite. Yeah, a little bit too close. So hopefully that'll change in playoffs and finals where people actually want to get back into swimming, but then they've got to try and find it, which is the problem.
Yeah. what I would say is the fact that the swimming and racing has been so close to the Olympics might not be good for the audience, but for every swimmer we have spoken to, it's been a blessing. They have loved, especially those who had a disappointing Olympics. The fact that they can jump back into, we've called it through every podcast episode, swimmer's paradise out there. They're racing, they're sat on the beach, they're going to Capri Island. They've absolutely loved it. So for swimmers who are racing there, no issue whatsoever. ISL has done an amazing job in terms of audience, coverage, paywall. I could rant for a very long time, but
it's terrible, isn't it? I think normally the Olympics is 2 weeks, and of course the swimming is over after the first week, and so the swimmers stay there normally for the second week, and they just go out and they have parties, they have fun. I feel like ISL is that. is the party after Tokyo. And of course, the weather's been incredible in Naples. They're on Capri, they've gone to Pompeii, etc., etc. So they've actually really enjoyed themselves, and much needed for those swimmers. But in terms of us, the ones who don't swim, painful, unfortunately.
It's a little bit hard.
Yeah.
A little bit hard.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of our review. We'll do a preview of the playoffs when they come a little bit closer. We'll do a full review of ISL when the season's done. Now is a good time to put any more questions into the live chat before we sign off. Dan, to finish our first ever Propulsion Swimming Show, I'm going to ask you to give me your top 4 and your winner based on the regular season.
Based on the regular season, I think LA Currents don't make the top 4, which is, I don't know if I'm surprised by that, but at the same time, I'm so impressed with Toronto. I think they get 4th overall. Toronto. I think
your top 4?
So Toronto finished 4th. London finished 3rd, even without PT, because the Australians are really helping. Yeah, and then it becomes the top 2, and it's going to be the top 2. Obviously, I'm going to go for Energy to finish 2nd. I think Cali are too strong. The jackpots are too big for Cali. They really are. When you get Dressel in there jackpotting, you've got Kelsey Dahlia jackpotting, Lily King will jackpot as well. It's too much. And I think they basically win based off that, ultimately. That's what I think. I don't know if yours is any different.
I've got Energy, Cali, London, and then it was a coin flip between LA and Toronto. Because you've gone Toronto, I'll agree with you, actually. I really like the way they've raced. But LA... Ryan Murphy coming back could be huge. Huge. And Tom Shields is racing very fast right now in Berlin. So that could be another point. Winner for me depends. This depends.
Curveball. On.
If it's in London.
Yes.
And potentially PT races, I would argue London make top 2.
Really?
But
how much training is he doing? How much is he in the pool?
He's not in the pool.
He's banned. He does his jacuzzi stuff, maybe like an hour a day.
No, he's not doing that.
Is he not even
banned
doing
for
that?
the dancing. What I would say, Cali, that it's just Dressel. You can't beat him.
Yeah, you can't. I mean,
it's you take jackpot points away. I say,
energy win. Oh, energy win. I'm more than confident about that. But because of the jackpot, it's Cali, isn't it? I can't look past them. It's just the Dressel show.
You see the amount of points he scores. It's bonkers.
Yeah,
it is bonkers.
Yeah, it is a lot.
We're going top 4 of Energy, Cali, London, Toronto, and then to win, Cali.
I just don't see it any other way. I was quite confident with Energy winning potentially in my preview, but after that, I just think Cali, they're too strong. The superstars are too super, if you like. I think Energy are deeper in terms of relays, especially for both relays.
For sure.
And they will pick skins, but then when it gets to skins, they can't pick freestyle, they can't pick fly for Dressel, they can't pick. They want to pick breaststroke, don't they? Obviously,
Dressel is still try breaststroke,
but he'll still breaststroke, and he'll still get through to round 2 as well.
Yeah.
So it's difficult, but
very difficult. Right then, that kind of rounds up the first ever Propulsion Swimming live show on YouTube. I mean, we've done live shows before, but this is a nice kind of new format where we chat with everyone. We will be back in a month's time in this format. I think we might do a debate on Michael Phelps's best ever races for our second show. I'm hoping for a lot of comments on that one as well and a lot of interaction. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and please tune in and vote for Adam tonight on Strictly.
Yes. That's true. Completely forgot that was on. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, I'll definitely be watching that now. Yes, he needs votes. I'm sure he'll be fine, to be quite honest with you, because he looks quite good. I didn't realize he could move that way, which is incredible. But yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. We will try to aim to do this every month, the Propulsion Swimming Show.
That is the plan.
Different topics. Obviously, this one is more serious, if you like, kind of thing. Whereas the Michael Phelps races will be just
debate.
Let's just see. Loads of comments come flooding in, no doubt. We'll be getting things wrong, in your opinion. And so, yes, leave your comments. It'll be interesting to see. Yes.
Okay, great stuff. Thank you very much, everyone who's joined us. Please subscribe to the Propulsion Swimming channel if you haven't already. And we will be back next week with a podcast and maybe a video if I've got time to edit it. But we've definitely got a podcast recorded.
We do.
And we will see you guys very soon.
Yes. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll catch you on the next one.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.